Hi everyone, it's Joanna. Tonight I'm taking you on along one of the Portland's most haunting and meaningful Halloween traditions, the Tour of Untimely Departures at Lone Fir Cemetery. The annual event happens every year on the Saturday before Halloween. This year it was actually on Halloween. When history steps out and uh, of the shadows and residents of the Lone Fir Cemetery tell their own stories. Costumed actors uh, bring these spirits to life, reminding us that every headstone holds a piece of Portland's past. I uh, I first came to Lone Fir Cemetery back when I ran a meetup group that promoted local movie screenings and community events. The last year I organized was the group was in 2014, and this was my first time back since before COVID. A year, a friend asked me to film the tour this year, and I couldn't resist returning to one of my favorite traditions. The spirits we visited last night included Alice Holmes, who was out of who was out for a ride with her sisters when the car swerved to avoid a cow with tragic results. Julius Caesar, a noted orator and one of Portland's early Black politicians who is said to have coined the phrase play ball to begin baseball games. Alice Oberle, who ran one of Portland's most elegant fancy houses with her sisters, though she now rests at Mount Calvary Cemetery. Uh, uh, Chee Gong, a Chinese immigrant convicted of murdering um, convicted of murder and maintained his innocence until his dying day. And Catherine Mees, whose life ended in heartbreak when her husband took her life and then ended his own. Each story reminds us that the line between the living and the departed is thin, especially on nights like this. So join me as we walk through the lantern lit paths of Lone Fir Cemetery and meet the residents who still have stories left to tell. Thank you.
Contest or setting a new typing record speed, but no. My name made headlines for something quite different. Unruly cow sends car over embankment. Alice Holmes dies instantly. Rather dramatic, don't you think? But let's start at the beginning.
What's the name of the cow? Sorry.
I was born in 1891 in Olympia, Washington. I moved here to Portland with my family when I was 5 years old. The city was growing fast then. It was an exciting time. People bustling around, talking about the future. I was one of 7 children, so my house was never quiet. After I graduated from Clinton Kelly Grammar School, which is now Cleveland High School, I found work as a stenographer, and I sang in my church choir. The paper said that I was well known in musical circles as a singer. Now, let me tell you about automobiles. The first one arrived in Oregon in 1899. It was a Stanley steamer. It went about 5 miles per hour, and it scared half the horses in town. By 1912, the year of my untimely departure, cars were still a novelty. If one passed by, everyone would stop and stare. The streets were dirt or gravel. There were no rules of the road, no driver's licenses, so every ride was a thrilling adventure. One Saturday afternoon in October, our longtime family friend George Bryce came calling. Now, he was doing very well in law and real estate, so he had an automobile. when he invited me and my 2 older sisters, Layla and Bertha, to go for a drive, we were quick to accept. And it was a dazzling autumn afternoon. We were driving along St. Helens Road in Linton above St. John's, and the trees were turning red and gold, the river was sparkling in the sun. George was driving, Layla was sitting next to him, and me and Bertha were in the back, laughing, having a grand time, enjoying the wind in our hat ribbons. Until it happened. A farmer was leading his cow along the roadside. Normal, harmless, until the beast started bucking and jerking against his restraints right across our path. So George tried to avoid him, swerved, backed up, but as he did so, there were ferns along the side of the road hiding just how crumbling and soft the earth there was after the recent rains. I can still feel that sickening tilt, that terrible weightless instant when the wheels lost hold and we tipped over the edge. George told the papers, "We all felt the car going over. I cannot describe what followed, it all happened so quickly." Well, he ended up 15 feet below the highway, dazed but fine. Bertha was next to him, swooning, so he carried her up to the road, where they found Layla with hardly a scratch. The car rolled all the way down to the railroad tracks. But me, they found me 40 feet down the embankment, motionless. My neck was broken, my head crumpled under my body. The Red Cross ambulance transported the body of the dead girl, that's me, to the coroner's office. Gruesome, right? But I can't help seeing the poetry and humor of it. A bright fall day, a newfangled invention, a stubborn cow. That's what did me in. I suppose there are worse ways to make the newspapers. They did say that I was well known in the younger set in Portland and that the crowd at my funeral was impressive. So now I lie here peacefully without my hat next to my mother, whose name I share. The world has moved on. Safer cars, better roads, cows behind proper fences, but you can still read my story. So I hope you'll think of me kindly. A girl who loved her city, her sisters, and a good Saturday drive.
Thank you, Spirits.
I like tonight. Better yet, fancy y'all finding me. Well, since you're here, best gather around. I'm fixing to tell y'all a story. It's a good one too, about a man versed in the ways of domestication, occupation, shoe shining beautification, pork belly skirt steak extirpation, baseball idolization, and of course, political oration. Who's this man so dripped in talent? Well, his name is Julius Caesar. And I ain't talking the one over yonder in Rome. No, the one I'm talking about made history that generations to come would carry forward but never know. And it started right here in this city. Well, that Julius Caesar is me. Now, I wasn't born in a place such as this, as you can tell by my flowery mouthpiece. I was born in the wet heat of Columbus, Mississippi. Sometime in the years 1824 to 1851, I was born a slave. Now you know why I can't quite recall the year I came about. Didn't have no folks except the white ones, Mr. and Mrs. B.T. Taylor, and their son James. Me and him grew up as brothers. Ran together, played together, fought together. We even went hunting together. Was so close with the family that Mr. Taylor offered me my freedom before our friends from the north came down to make it law. Shortly after that, in the early 1860s, we up and moved to San Francisco and then on to Corvallis in 1869. Now, had I known about this Oregon Constitution they had, I'd have thought twice about moving. But sure enough, where the Taylors went, so did I. In 1870, the census had me listed as a servant, but within a decade, they had me rightly listed by my occupation, a butcher. Here, tell it, best there was in town. That time, I built myself an estate of $30,000 to $40,000. That's right. Carry the one, add some zeros, and by today's standards, I'm a millionaire. With this success came my wife, Cordelia Jackson. Delia, as I called her. Even my less pigmented brother, James, signed our marriage affidavit, and soon after, we had a daughter. This daughter grew up to be a holy woman, spirited in her ways and joined a convent in Washington, Vancouver, but not too many know about that. With this success came a lot of excitement. noise, voices, energy. Eccentric is what they called me. And with that, our marriage wasn't fixing to last long. And we separated and I moved to Portland in 1881. Now, my first venture in this city was joining the Sumner Lodge International Order of Odd Fellows. That's right, me, an odd fellow. And I brought my fine butchery skills and taste to this city, introducing hominy grits. And you know what tastes good with them cone grits? Cone liquor. My mind always seemed to settle whenever the bottle was around, and so the bottle became my friend. Popular in town, I was friends with everyone. Politicians, policemen, shop owners, passerbys, and the likes. Whether it was because of my Shakespearean performances or these fine threads, the city came to know me, and I knew them. And perhaps that's what spurred my engagement into politics. This city needed a Republican voice like mine. Now, whoa. I'm not talking no orange-faced roadkill toupees, no. I'm talking the Lincoln Republican Party. I'm talking the abolition of slavery. I'm talking rights for ordinary, everyday kinfolk. Through my services, I saw people get elected into the Washington-Waukegan County Censure in 1901, and you can't call it coincidence that this city saw its first black policeman, firefighter, and city employee during the time of my political engagements. If I wasn't politicking, I was baseballing. This might have been where my mind came most alive and my voice the most heard. Shoot, might as well have called me a professional, the way I rallied the crowd and the way I narrated the games. The crowd would wait in excitement and anticipation of my chant to commence the festivities. Play ball is what I call, and the crowd goes wild. I hear tell that phrase became synonymous with the sport for years to come. I bet many of you know it yourself. You're welcome. I became the unofficial mascot of the Portland Amateur Athletic Club, the Multnomah Athletic Club, and some might even say the city itself. Now, everyone knew Independence Day and the 4th of July was my favorite holiday. A shining patriotic American such as I am. So on that day in 1906, when I was nowhere to be found, the city went looking. Didn't take long for them to find me dead underneath a pile of lumber down on the Alder docks next to the Morrison Bridge. Some suspect my drinking was the cause. Or perhaps this eccentric mind finally got to stepping. Either way, Mac Club members and shop owners rallied together to buy me a fancy plot right here in this very cemetery, headstone and all, and had me laid to rest the next day, July 5th. Friends would later say that I was a relic of old Portland, a place where people of all backgrounds and all beliefs would rub shoulders, would argue, would make up and forgive each other every single day. So when times get tough and the tensions get high, all you got to do is remember, y'all, play ball.
From France in 1871 with nothing but our hopes and charm. I provided the sparkle, the music, the entertainment. Some evenings I was a dinner guest, other nights a confidant, and often, well, I was the main attraction. Rumor is I had over 6,000 admirers. I tried to keep tally, but that pencil wore out faster than I did. Well, I dazzled the gentlemen, Flora kept the books, set the rules, and made sure the fancy house ran properly. Unlike those North End brothels down by the waterfront, loud, crowded places full of nothing but sailors and loggers, we catered to Portland's higher class. We were located in the park blocks, near fine homes and churches, while patrons came dressed in suits, not work boots. Inside, chandeliers glowed, velvet curtains lined the windows, and dinner parties ensued. An evening with me might begin with champagne and a piano performance before heading upstairs to the crib. In Portland, it was a mark of prestige for a businessman to be seen entertaining a fancy lady. Some called me disgraceful, but others called me necessary. bankers with money in their pockets, businessmen looking for entertainment, and even the city's leading figures who preached against such thing in public all found their way to my parlor sooner or later. And they spent plenty. By the 1880s, one-third of Portland's revenue came from liquor taxes. Much of it poured through establishments just like ours. Make no mistake, our house was as much a part of Portland's growth as the timber camps and railroads. But it wasn't all glitter and roses. Flora had to manage tempers, debts, and reputations, all while carving out a place in a world that gave women very few options. And in a world that wasn't built for us, she turned our home into a place of survival and prosperity, donating to orphanages, widows, and women with nowhere else to turn. Unfortunately, my story ended too soon. I began to lose my appetite, my skin bruised easily and turned yellow, and the next thing I knew, I was here. Only 31 and my life was cut short in 1884, supposedly from cirrhosis. I suppose I should have cut down and enjoyed so many drinks with the fellas, but you know, this job is a lot more demanding than you might think, and I needed a nip here and there. I lived brightly, maybe too brightly. My patrons, friends, if I'm being honest, took up a collection and raised $4,000 for this towering Celtic cross. It was their way of saying Alice mattered. Flora carried on for another 15 years before her own passage in 1899. By then, our estate was worth nearly $100,000. Not bad for two immigrant sisters that started out with nothing, huh? We were successful, yes, but not everyone was proud of our work. Our devout sister Louise eventually came to the American West with her two sons and did not approve of our profession. Years after our passage, our nephews had us move to the family plot in Mount Calvary Cemetery. They stripped our name from this monument, and what you see now is just a cenotaph, a cross without us beneath it. But history has a way of keeping secrets in plain sight. This cross still stands, and so does our story. Some say we were scandalous, and maybe so, but we were also clever, generous, and determined. We turned whiskers into a legacy you're still talking about today. So next time you pass this cross, remember, our story is Portland's story too.
Thank you, Spirit.
Is Chee Gong, or that is what you remember me as. In 1887, they say I kill a man, Li Yik, at the Chinese Theater on Southwest 2nd and Alder. In 1887, 1 in 4 Portlanders, Chinese. We built your railroad. We built your sea wall. We wash your clothes. We cook for you. I no kill Li Yik. At my trial, many spoke against me. They all say same thing, as though someone wrote what to say. Many newspapers, Oregonian, Astoria, San Francisco, all say Chee Gong innocent. My conviction overturned. Second trial. All white jury. Convicted in 2 hours. Jailers say, well, Chee Gong, maybe the governor will do something for you. I say, oh no, I have no money. Governor Sylvester Penoya won election with slogan, keep the Mongolians out.
Ooh.
Sheriff, take pity on me. He builds scaffold in a woodshed with An electric trap door. Push button. Kill man. No blood on your hands. I object wildly. What for you kill me in a woodshed? I go to hell, I die this way. All you friends, look me in the eye. See what you can see. I no do nothing. I no kill Li Yik. They bury me here in an unmarked grave. August 10th, 1889. Some say I am over there. Metro say I am there. I think they are wrong. Just over there, 2,000 of my countrymen buried. No marker. They built a garage. It kept falling down. As long as you don't know where we are, how will you know where the city begins?
Departure. Insane Belgian chops his wife to death and hangs himself. Did anyone see that? No? Then I will tell you my story. My story begins in Belgium with my birth in 1848. When I was 16 years old, we were living in France and I married my cousin, Cornelius Mees. He was 30 years old at the time. We soon moved to America, where we lived in a variety of cities, including Norway, Michigan, where Cornelius was arrested for threatening to kill me. And then in Chicago, he tried to slit my throat with a razor. I had to flee for my life. I tried to leave him several times, but friends would always convince us to get back together. And after all, there wasn't a lot that a respectable single woman could do to support herself. Cornelius worked as a laborer, and I took in washing. And when the opportunity presented itself, I would work as a midwife. Sadly, as I brought new lives into this world, I could not keep my 4 babies alive. Perhaps looking back, that was the best. We moved to Oregon about a year before that fateful day. We lived in a little 3-room house on the edge of a gulch near Northwest 12th and Overton, in an area I believe that you call the Pearl District now. Some people called our house a shanty, others called it a hut, but I worked hard and kept it clean and neat and made it a home with what I had available to myself. Moving to Oregon, Cornelius became even more volatile and jealous. Goodness, he had nothing to be jealous of, but he thought I was stepping out with a relative of my good friend, Mrs. Blomer, who I could go to every time I had to leave Cornelius. We separated 4 times in the last 3 months of my life. And each time Mr. Hammerlink, a friend of Cornelius's, would reconcile us. The last time was the night before I was murdered. And he once again reconciled us, even though Cornelius had told him just a few days before that he was going to commit a crime of a terrible nature. That night, on Sunday, July 29th, 1894, Cornelius and I got home about 7:30 in the evening. A couple hours later, he went out and bought a pitcher of beer, and that was the last either of us were seen alive. As we got ready for bed, I carefully folded our clothes and placed them on a chair. I dressed in my nightgown. He went to bed in his underwear. Suddenly, I woke up to see him standing above me with an axe raised above his head. As it came down, I put my arm up to protect myself, Once, twice, 3 times he hit me before I was able to flee the bed and stagger towards the door. I made it as far as the bedroom door before he hit me one last time in the back of my neck. He hit me so hard that it severed the spinal marrow and deep arteries and muscles, and I fell to the floor and breathed my last. I was 32 years old. I laid in my pool of blood for several hours until the baker came to the door, and when no one responded to his knock, he looked in the window and saw me lying there. Horrified, he went to get the police. Word travels fast. By the time the police got there, there was a large crowd of people trying to see in and view the horrific scene. The police had to work their way through the crowd, force the door open, and then keep everyone out by the time they were able to shut the door. As they investigated, they found Cornelius hanging in a corner of the dining area. After he had murdered me, he put his clothes back on that I had so carefully folded just shortly before and covered up his blood-spattered underwear. He then went to the corner where he had previously prepared a rope and hung himself. We were taken to the morgue, and the next day we were put on display, and hundreds of people came to see us. And on August 1st, 1894, we were buried here at Lone Fir. And even in death, I was unable to escape Cornelius because we are buried in the same grave. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and listening to my story. I hope the next time you're in the cemetery, you will stop by and say hello. Au revoir.
Sit on
Thank you,
Cornelius.
Spirit.